Laws of indices is one of the most simplest topic you ever come across in mathematics, if only you know how to go about it. Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel with Math Made Easy with Pearl. Today, we'll be looking at indices. Let's dive into this. Now, laws of indices. Number one, we have the addition law, which is, for example, you have a raised to the power n times a raised to the power m equals a raised to the power n plus m, whereby we pick one of the base. Now this is called the base and this is called the power, which is the indices. Indices is the power, so to which the base is raised to. So a raised to the power n times a raised to the power m, because it's multiplication, we pick one of the base and we add the powers. So we have a raised to the power n plus m. For the second law, which is the subtraction law of indices, when we have a raised to the power n divided by a raised to the power m, here the bases are the same. Pick one of the base and subtract the powers. So we have a raised to the power n minus m. For the third law, we call this product indices, whereby where you have a raised to the power n or raised to the power m, the powers multiply each other. The powers multiply themselves. So you have a raised to the power n times m. That's product indices. Power multiplies power. So which gives us a raised to the power n m. And then the fourth law, which is a raised to the power minus n. This is called the negative power law or the reciprocal law, where the negative sign turns to 1 over, becomes 1 over a raised to the power n, the power. That's the negative power law. And then we have the zero power law. The zero power law, where we have a raised to the power 0 equals 1. Here, anything raised to the power 0 is 1. So now we have the fractional indices, whereby the exponent is another word for index for indices. The exponent is a fraction. So we have a raised to the power n over m equals, now in this case, the denominator of the exponent becomes the root. That's why we have m root of a, and while the numerator becomes the power. So where a situation whereby you have a raised to the power n over m, m becomes the root, that's m root, and then n becomes the power, or raised to the power n. So therefore a raised to the power n over m equals m root of a, or raised to the power m. Now let's look at some examples. Number one, we have to simplify x raised to the power 10 times x raised to the power 5. Now you can, if you looking at this, you can see that this the addition law of indices applies here. So whereby the bases are the same, so we pick one of the base and then we add the powers. So we have 10 plus 5. So our final answer is x raised to the power 15. It's as simple as that. Okay, now let's look at another example. We have to simplify b raised to the power 5 divided by b raised to the power 3. Looking at this, you can see that the subtraction law of indices applies here, because we have b raised to the power 5 divided by b raised to the power 3. Because it's division, Now, in a situation whereby you have multiplication, whereby there is multiplication, just know it that the addition law applies there. A situation whereby you have division, know that subtraction law applies there. So in this case now, we are going to be applying the subtraction law of indices, whereby we pick one of the base and then we subtract the power. So we have 5 minus 3, which gives us b raised to the power of 2. Simple as that. Okay, now let's take another example. We have 2x squared all raised to the power of 2. Now in this case, you can see that this power of 2 is affecting 2 and also affecting x squared because they are all inside a bracket. So the product law also applies here. So we can write this as 2 raised to the power of 1. I assume that 2 is carrying an invisible power of 1 times 2, which is the power multiply power, times x squared times 2, power multiply power. So this will give us 1 times 2, that's 2, times x, 2 times 2, which is 4. So this gives us 2 raised to the power of 2 is what? 4x raised to the power of 4. So you can see that this gives us this. Another example on negative power law. If we have something like this, 4 raised to the power of minus 3. 4 raised to the power of minus 3. Now, the negative power law is also called the reciprocal law, whereby the negative sign becomes 1 over 4 raised to the power of 3. And this gives us 1 over 4 raised to the power of 3 is 64. And that's our final answer. Another example. X raised to the power of 0. X raised to the power of 0 gives us 1. That's the 0 power law. Anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. So x raised to the power of 0 is 1. Okay, now let's look at another example under this law. We have x raised to the power of 2 over 3. Now you can see that the power is a fraction, and in this case the denominator of the power becomes the root. So that will give us third root of x, and then the numerator becomes the power, so which gives us all raised to the power of 2. So you see that x raised to the power of 2 over 3 is equal to third root of x all raised to the power of 2. Now, having done all this, you can see that indices is one of the most simplest topic in mathematics. Now let's dive into practical examples. So now let's look at a practical example from the first law. Now we have 2x squared times 3x cubed. Now how do we go about this? Remember the first law, when they have the same base, you pick one of the base and add their powers. But you can see that each term has a coefficient. What's a coefficient? A number that is attached to an alphabet. Now you can see that 2 is attached to x, making 2 the coefficient of x, and 3 attached to x, making 3 the coefficient of x cubed. So what do we do here? what you do, we multiply the coefficients separately and then take care of the x squared and the x cubed. So what do we have here? We have 2 times 3, the coefficient multiplies each other, times x squared times x cubed. So this gives us 2 times 3, which gives us 6 times. Now they have the same base. What do? We pick one of the base and we add the powers. So we have x raised to the power of 2 plus 3, which is equal to 6x raised to the power of 5. That's it. Okay, now let's look at another practical example from the second law. On the second law, so we have 18x6 divided by 3x2. Now we have 18x raised to the power of 6 divided by 3x raised to the power of 2. Now the same thing here, we also divide the coefficient. You can see that each term has a coefficient. X raised to the power of 6 has a coefficient of which is 18, and x raised to the power of 2 has a coefficient which is 3. So we have to divide the coefficient. So we divide the coefficient. We have 18 divided by 3 times x raised to the power of 6 divided by x raised to the power of 2. Now let's divide. So we have 18 divided by 3 gives us 6 times. Now this brings us back to this law where they have the same base. So we pick one of the base and then we subtract the powers because it's division. So this gives us 6x raised to the power of 6 minus 2 gives us 4. And that's it. Another example on the third law, if you have 2x squared raised to the power of 3. Now in this case, you can see that this power is only affecting x squared. Why? Because x squared is the only one in the brackets. So this power doesn't affect 2. So 2 is going to be on its own. So this will give us 2 times x raised to the power of 2 times 3. That's power multiply power. So this is 2x raised to the power of 2 times 3 gives us 6. So that's our final answer. Okay, now let's look at another example. Another example on the fourth law. Now we have 2x raised to the power of minus 2. 2x raised to the power of minus 2. Now in this case, now you see that 2x is inside the bracket. That means this minus 2 is affecting both 2 and x. It's affecting 2 and x because they're both inside the bracket. And this applies to the negative power law. So now, recall that the negative sign changes to 1 over. And then we have 2x all raised to the power of 2. So this gives us 1 over. Now 2x raised to the power of 2. Remember, the square is affecting 2 and x. So this gives us 2 squared x squared. So which is equal to 1 over 2 squared is 4. That's 4x squared. You have this. Okay, now let's look at another example. still on the fourth law, where we have 5 raised to the power of minus 3. 5 raised to the power of minus 3. Now, remember, the negative sign becomes 1 over 5 raised to the power of 3. So this gives us 1 over 5 raised to the power of 3 is 125. Now, many students make this mistake. A situation where you have 2 raised to the power of 3. 2 raised to the power of 3 means 2 times 2 times 2. That is 2 multiplied by itself in 3 places. That's 2 raised to the power of 3, not 2 times 3. So here we have 5 raised to the power of 3. It means 5 multiplied by itself in 3 places, which is 5 times 5 times 5. And we have 5 times 5, 25. 25 times 5, 125. So 1 over 5 raised to the power of 3 gives us 1 over 125. Okay, so now let's look at another practical example on the fifth law. 10 raised to the power of 0. 10 raised to the power of 0 is what? Is 1. Anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. That's the zero power law. So that's for that. And then let's look at another example. Okay, so now let's look at another example. I have 5x raised to the power of 0. Now, looking at this, see that the power is only affecting x and not 5, because both of them are not in a bracket. If they're in a bracket, we can say that the power will affect 5 and x. But since there is no bracket, x is the only one that will be affected. So we can write this as 5 times x raised to the power of 0. So this gives us 5 times, and what is x raised to the power of 0? Is what? 1. Whereby anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. So this is equal to 5 times 1 gives us what? 5. It's as simple as that. Now let's look at another example. We have 5x raised to the power of 0. Now look at this. You can see that both of them are in the brackets. It means the power is affecting 5 and x. So this, we can write this as 5 raised to the power of 0 times x raised to the power of 0. And 5 raised to the power of 0 is what? 1. Times x raised to the power of 0 is 1, which is equal to 1. Or 5x raised to the power of 0, since both of them are inside the bracket and they are all raised to the power of 0. Anything raised to the power of 0 is what? 1. So you have that 5x raised to the power of 0 equals 1. Now let's take another example. Another example under the sixth law. We have 8 raised to the power of 2 over 3. 8 raised to the power of 2 over 3. Now, let's take it that, let's compare with what we have here. 8 is A, 3 is M, and 2 is N. So, this gives us what? Remember that the denominator of the indices becomes the root. So this will give us third root of what? 8. While the numerator becomes the power. So gives us all raised to the power of 2. Can see that. Now We have to resolve this first. Resolve what is inside the bracket. What is the third root of 8? The third root of 8 is 2, because 2 is being multiplied by itself 3 times to give 8. So 2 is the third root of 8 raised to the power of 2. And then we have 2 raised to the power of 2 is 4. Final answer. So it's as simple as that. Did you learn anything new? And if you did, please drop it on the comment section. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye.
Friends show up, we laugh all night. New semester, got the future in sight.